I didn't have anything formal planned. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The contract is basically complete. The contractor did all his work, and this is the formality to set the clock ticking for
We just need to offer the
the notice
notice
of
of
completion.
completion.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Yes.
before I make the motion, just, I will make the motion that we accept the notice of completion
Thank you.
and then reserve the right to speak to my motion.
Yes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Your comments then.
I would like to just pass on, as I spend some time in the La Conchita community, I heard from.
Excuse me. There we go. The motion. As I spent a fair bit of time in the La Conchita community, I wanted to pass on kudos to both the contractors and to staff on just the job well done and the interaction with the community. And I know we put it off. There was a couple other things going on up there. The county was getting ready to pave the streets. We ended up postponing that. I mean, just so that we could do that. And so coordinating with that was number one, but also coordinating with the residents was very important. A couple of fire hydrants were moved, and that was in conjunction with talking to the residents so that the parking wasn't impacted, but also the ability for the fire department to do their job was there. So if you would pass that on, and hopefully as this contractor can stay working with us, and if they can keep the bids coming in, but just their community interaction was very well spoken from a number of folks up there. So I want to pass that on. And Mike Bell's a hard person to make happy, and he was very happy.
The mayor of La Conchita, yes. Thank you.
Any other comments on item number 11? Not. It's been moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Spandrew?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes. Moving to item 12, recommend awarding a purchase order contract to Great Western Recreation in the amount of $33,085 for Lycra playground surface replacement. As I understand, this is a $3,000 increase on the estimate and the budget. Is that correct? Redoing the surface of the playground?
Yes, the budget for this item was $30,000, and the bid came in at $33,085. So we're just requesting an additional 10% in the budget, basically.
And brings it up to current standard.
Correct. It's pretty deteriorated.
For the board members' knowledge, we heard that in committee, and safeguard, the safety of the kids and everybody else who plays on this apparatus that was necessary.
Appreciate that.
So I'll move the recommended motion.
Been moved. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Spandrew?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes. Moving to item 13. Thank you, Julia. Recommend approval for an additional $10,000 to increase the awning covers for various pumping facilities budgets for the $25,000 to $35,000. These are to put awnings over the pumping stations to protect them from the weather and deterioration from the heat. Is what I understand.
That's correct. One of the when we reviewed the low bid that we got, we actually eliminated one of the covers from one of the stations. We've had since that time did have a noise complaint from the location, that particular location, and combined with the extra protection that would provide for that particular location as far as the pumping equipment, felt that it was a show of good faith to help with the noise situation out there. In all likelihood, it won't eliminate it, but it should help because we have one other pump that is covered there that doesn't have that problem. So
We've long needed some covers over some of those.
yeah, they're out in the open. That's typically not built that way any longer.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I did have a question.
Yep.
Maybe the engineering manager could, have we done a complete review of similar pump stations throughout the district just to see if there might be some necessary improvements of this accord there too?
Some of awnings, or we have a long list, yeah.
I just want to
We
make
do.
sure that, we follow through with that. If it's, safeguarding the equipment, as well as attenuating any possible type of noise issues that we, look at this throughout the district.
Yeah, we plan to tackle a few every year to put them into the capital budget.
Yeah, just moving this one up is kind of what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second the motion and speak,
Ben.
if I could speak to,
go ahead.
ask a question of staff. I know it's a small amount. How do we, obviously it was in the budget. Do we get a general idea? We budgeted 25, this is 35. I know it's only 10, it's only $10,000 is $10,000. It's money. And I just previously, the other one was only over by a small amount. So I'm just wondering, and I knew how the budget process, do we evaluate, does staff take a look at what they guesstimate the general area is and then try to ballpark it? And then we try to go out on the market for bids. Is that generally, and then we take the lowest, that's the bidding process at that point.
Yeah, and unfortunately on this particular project, we only had one bidder.
That's, generally the case.
And on a few occasions, some of the bids come in lower and, but
Understand 100%. And I know that we're competing in a very tough out there now.
But
So-
we budget for the project, and if it's in excess of the budget, then we bring it to the board.
Got it. So these get reviewed, this got reviewed in committee.
That's correct.
God, that's what I figure. Okay.
Originally,
And I imagine when we get to the budget, we can talk about maybe expanding on some of those areas.
yes.
Good. Thank you.
Did we vote on this yet?
We have a
Lost
motion and
track.
a second, but I need
We
to call the
have,
roll.
let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Spandrio?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser? Mr. Ward?
Yes, thank you. Now we'll move to the presentation by the PUN Group of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year 2017-2018. This is our small one. Thank you.
Yes.
And you are,
This is, my name is Tanya Porsche. I'm with the Poon Group. I will make this brief, but
is her mic on?
is it? Okay.
It is, yeah, actually get a little closer.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to.
Tap it.
I think this is your presentation.
Yes,
so,
that's
yeah,
it.
This is forward and back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Only said that because I couldn't hear you, but
I have a soft
no-
voice. Is
that's
that
no
better?
true measure of
Okay.
Great.
the effectiveness of
All right.
This is 98 slides, right?
98 slides. Yes, it is.
We're ready for that.
Okay, good. I'm going to go in detail on each number on the CAFR.
page by page.
Exactly. And I'll explain every single number.
I have three flagged. Let's see if you can pick them out.
Okay.
No.
No. Okay. Well, first I'm going to go over management responsibilities, our responsibilities, and the purpose of the audit. The first part is like I said, the responsibilities, our approach to the audit, a brief overview of the financial statements. There's two key high-level information on the pension and the OPEB plans, and also the results of the audit. The first part is the management's responsibilities during the audit, or throughout the year, I would say. Management is responsible for the financial statements. Sorry, make sure they're also. We are there just to verify that the numbers that they've presented on the financial statements are accurate and complete. They're also responsible to present the financial statements in accordance with accounting standards generally accepted in the United States of America. That's the general standard that governs all financial statement presentations and all financial statements throughout all entities, be it government or public or private. Their responsibility is also to adopt sound accounting policies, to establish and maintain internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, provide evidence which supports the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. They're also to present have a fair presentation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatements and rather due to fraud or error, and to prevent and detect fraud. I can go into more detail in any of one of those points if asked to do so. And as the auditors, we are responsible to perform the audit in conformity with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States, in the United States of America. Again, those are the standards that govern all audits, no matter what entity is being audited. We are also responsible to communicate with those charged with governance, and that is to communicate to the board any irregularities or anything else that we have found. We also we assess the risk of internal controls and financial reporting. The audit risk, sorry. We also determine the fairness of the presentation of the financial statements as the management has presented. We render an opinion on the financial statement, and we also issue recommendations to management if there are any recommendations. And then I will briefly go over to our approach to each audit. Oops, can't see that. The first part of the audit is a detailed planning. At that point, we assess the inherent risk, the risk within the actual entity. And then the phase 2 is also, that's our risk-based review of both of internal control systems and compliance. And that would include the financial reporting systems, revenues, which includes, of course, billings and cash receipts, expenses, which includes purchasing and cash disbursements, payroll and related liabilities, as well as the general IT controls. The last phase 3 is a validation of the account balances, and phase 4 is the preparation and issuance of the issuance of our audit opinion. Okay. And then brief overview of the financial statements. The first, it's a comparison of both from year over year. As you see, the assets decreased slightly from 2017 at 125,576,921,000. I won't go over each of the line items unless you would want me to. But I will go over in detail. The next section would be the revenues and expenses. Oops, sorry. Okay. The
Is that page 17?
oops. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, it is. Would you like me to slow down, or am I going
No,
to?
go right ahead.
Okay, all right, because it's a long day. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. The first line item, operating revenues increased over approximately $2 million from last year, and that was mainly due to the purchase of the OHI system, and also the other operating revenues also increased, but that also includes expenses, other operating expenses. It's lumped together on this presentation. And the operating expenses, of course, that's also increased. Again, it was due to the purchase of the OHI system, which was done in June 2017. There was a slight decrease. Well, there was the change in the net position, which is basically the bottom line, the net loss or net the net loss for the company, for the district. The net loss actually reduced from 5.7 million to 3.9 million. A few years back, the district did a water rate study, and it was projected that there would be the district would be in a loss. So it was proposed then to do a 12.5% rate increase over a 5-year period. So now that they're currently in that rate increase, year 2. And you can see the difference right now in the reduction of the deficit. And as at the end of the 5 years, projected to have to be operating in a surplus.
Thank you.
Those, I keep hitting the wrong one. Okay, those are the cash flows from operating. That's just basically what this statement is detailing out is the cash flows from operating, from financing activities, from capital and related from non-capital and capital-related financing activities, and also from investment activities. So this is basically what the operations and what financing, investing, and everything else does to the bottom line and the cash that's created. I mean, you have at the end of the year. Okay. And then the next slide is us on the, it's a brief summary of GASB 68, which is the Governing Accounting Standard Board's pronouncement on how to handle the pension, the pension for current employees. And this basically is telling you the measurement date. I know Ken Poon, he's our managing partner, he went over in detail of both the pension and the OPEB, which would be the next slide, on what all the numbers meant. So this is just a high-level presentation. The discount rate there, 7.15%, is the amount of what the underlying assets need to be discounted at in order to fulfill the funding requirement in future years. And then the net pension liability is that's the liability that you currently have according to actuarial studies. And okay, the next one is OPEB. That's the OPEB, which is the other post-employment retirement, post-employment benefits, and that's governed by GASB 75. And there was a change from prior year to this year. The Government Accounting Standard Board implemented a new presentation for the post-retirement benefits to be more in line with the pension presentation and to go from a funded status to a full accrual status. Okay, and this, again, is just some of the details. Is the measurement date. That's key and with the actuary in order to determine what, when things are measured. It's discounted rate of 6%. Again, with the underlying assets, that's the rate of return it would need in order to fund the future liability. And the current OPEB liability for retirement benefits is $10,282,145. And then now this going to the audit results. The first part we gave an unmodified opinion, which basically translates to we had no findings, and what that means is that as I was going over earlier, the financial statements were fairly presented by management. We had the significant accounting policies were followed and consistently applied. All estimates were reasonable, and disclosures were properly reflected in the financial statements. That would be the note disclosures at the end of the financial statements. And then the other results, these are some of the required things that we communicate. There was no disagreements with management, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, over internal controls that were noted, and there were no accounting issues. And that is...
My understanding was that he really looked hard and long and then still said no instances of non-compliance of other matters.
That is correct. So, yes, we did detailed
tried his
testing.
Best.
Yes, he did. He tried his best, and to no avail.
Thank you.
So.
Comments?
Recommendation of the Budget Committee?
I did have one question.
Yes.
And Denise, I'm sorry, but maybe you might be able to answer this clearly. But I'll offer it to both of you.
Okay.
On page 63 of the report, line item, we have a change in fair value of investments.
Mm-hmm.
It's of a negative bracketed number.
That would be...
Oh, 63.
Okay, go ahead.
63.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I was wondering if you could explain that to me, us, as to...
That's a different 63 than what I have.
Market value goes up and down. And I'm required to show a loss when the market goes down, even though we monetarily haven't lost any of our funds. So it's just gonna go up and down every year depending on the market value. We have a 10-year ladder on our investments, so as the market goes up, our bond looks better than if the market goes down.
This is a reflection of a point in time.
Yes. Mhm. As of 6/30/2018, all investments, and per accounting standards, all investments are required to be reported at fair market value. And when they're reported at fair market value, we'll see the change in value at according to that time period. And that's the standard.
So basically, it's a snapshot, and it's dependent upon the actual stock market, et cetera, as to what's
Exactly. And it's an unrealized gain as opposed to a realized gain. It's just
or
a
an
change.
unrealized loss too.
Exactly. Exactly.
All depends if you
So
sold through liquid.
smart investment, you just hold it till the market goes back up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yes.
As long as we're on page 63, I'm curious why the end-of-year net position of $60,337,000 is different from that shown on previous parts of the report.
63.
You're
Let's,
63. That's a different.
I don't think that's the budget.
For instance, on page 15,
Thanks.
the total net position was $60,029,000, and it's $63,337. Are we talking about a different category? Or is it the same item?
Okay, hold on.
See, I don't know much of what I'm talking about looking at this report, except if I see what I think is an inconsistency.
No, that shouldn't. We have to correct that.
Oh, so they should be the same.
Yep, it should be actual. That,
029 and
You're right. It is different. I can throw the other one away.
thank you for pointing that out.
Got to earn my pay.
Yeah, I will attest to computer issues we were having, so I'm gonna blame it on that, on the final production.
Those darn computers.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
Any other? Yes, Director Brennan.
Mr. Chair, is it imperative that we adopt it now? I'm just wondering if you had this error, perhaps you could run back and just see if there's anything else. I mean, we're noting just these two changes, and I mean, do you feel comfortable?
It is imperative to meet a deadline by the
31st.
for the GFO and the 31st reporting.
Okay. Well, I'll make the motion
To accept.
to accept with the changes presented, and if
If
I'd
you
ask
see
staff
anything
to
else-
go back and re-examine, and if they could bring it back to us if there's any other changes than the two the director was just able to point out.
Not a problem. And the correct amount would be on page 15. That would be the correct net position.
Page 50 or
So
50?
you're talking about the correct amount would be the 60,029,912.
Yeah. Been moved. Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
Moved and second that we accept the report, the Fund Group Comprehensive Annual Financial Report with a notation of the corrections identified. Please call the roll, please.
Mr. Spandrio?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Word?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to have a quiz on this on January, you understand.
Good. We'll study.
Okay, we move to item 15, which are the information items. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H before you for acceptance. Do I have any comment from, yes?
Yeah, Mr. President, I had several questions on items B, C, and F. But-
B, C, and F.
Boy, Charlie, Frank. But rather than take up time here, I'd be very willing to meet with Mr. Flood and/or the engineering manager to discuss these, or we can discuss them tonight.
Are they?
Either one, because the water consumption report is always part of the financial report in the finance committee.
They're actual information items, so it might be better for the director, Bandrio, to speak directly to Mr. Flood.
And I don't have a problem with that, and Mr. Flood doesn't.
Well, of course not. Are you kidding?
Director Brennan.
I was only going to ask because I think it's important maybe for all of us to get a report back on that. If you had the questions, to just get them on the record and then, or to meet with you and then to maybe make that available to all of us, because I did have, might be the same question
be
I
good.
had about the usage report.
That's a good
also.
idea.
Good, thank you.
I have
Do that.
all the questions itemized, so
Okay. So you're going to just give them to Manager Flood?
however he wishes, I can certainly give him a hard copy when I,
Like to do it?
However you want to do it.
okay, I'll make sure that it gets at least to him, if not to Rebecca, to make it an official
Okay,
record.
that's good. Then
Thank
she
you.
can include it. Thank you.
One thing I would note, we did make a slight change to the Recreation Committee minutes. So we did hand out a new copy of Recreation Committee minutes, and those are the ones that we'd like included in this motion.
All of you have that? Do you?
It was in reference to, I think, the horse.
I can't remember where it was.
Exactly.
Do you have it? Oh, yes, in reference to the horses at the, yes, thank you. Your pleasure then on accepting.
Move to receive and file
Second,
with those questions being forwarded to the GM.
and then to the direct answers to fellow directors.
Yes.
Appropriate. Thank you.
If that's clear for everyone, no other question, will you call the roll?
Mr. Spandrell?
Yes,
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
Yes, thank you. Thank
Mr.
you all
President?
for coming. We are adjourned. Yes.
Thank you.
I wanted to pass on my compliments to the engineering manager on the kind of reporting that we're seeing for updates. I think that's very
You
important.
like the graph she has at the end of her?
Yes, I do like the graph. I have one minor request for the graph. Could the background be white instead of black?
Shows, yeah.
Yes, but our graphics skill was so disappointed.
It is beautiful.